I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I am a little bit worried about Exo Cars. The PSVR2 is in desperate need of more racing games, so Exo Cars didn't need to be awesome to fill the void. It just had to be good. But the launch is off to a rocky start. After a 4-month delay with reports of near weekly attempts to pass Sony QA, we then got word that it would be launching without multiplayer support, or even proper wheel support, meaning no force feedback. It's a racing game. I really do think that most people would agree that these things should be standard. To be fair though, the developers are claiming that multiplayer and force feedback will be implemented soon, but we have no idea of how good either of those will be when they get here, so I've got to tackle Exo Cars in this review as the bare bones racer that it is. So buckle up. I do have to say that despite what you'll hear me say later in this video, my first impressions of Exo Cars are actually pretty great. The soundtrack rocks, the graphics are detailed enough sporting high-resolution environments and run at a native 90 frames per second, all exactly what you're looking for in a fast arcadey racer. Even better, there's 9 unique tracks that range from forests, beach resorts, and mountains to more urban areas like parking garages, the harbor where you race around shipping containers, and even a concrete riverbed that I can't help but think of that scene in Terminator 2 whenever I race here. And your bouncy little buggy car reacts to all the different surfaces appropriately. I have way more traction on asphalt, meaning on dirt tracks, I slide around and drift unintentionally for half the race. But these vehicles are so lightweight that literally anything on the track can send you flying. Now don't get me wrong, I love the bouncy suspension and the spin-outs and even flipping upside down that gives you a great feeling for actually being inside one of these cars. But sometimes it's obviously not supposed to happen. If you make one small mistake, especially before really upgrading your vehicle, there's no chance you'll have a shot at first place. But so far these complaints just seem to be stuff that's inherent to this style of racing, which means that the longer you play, the better you'll get at maneuvering these tracks. New lap. What's not inherent to this style of racing though are the controls. The discourse leading up to launch was that wheel support would somehow be an unfair advantage to other control schemes. So let's test that out. Starting out, using the analog sticks on the Sense controllers. And I've got to be honest with you, if any control scheme is unfair, this is the one, allowing you to put the pedal to the metal, race at full speed, and never let up the entire race. Being able to sit back and flick analog sticks back and forth sends your in-game wheel flying all the way to the left or right in an instant, in ways that you could never pull off with a real wheel or a virtual wheel. It doesn't feel immersive, but I do think it delivers on the game that Zocus was trying to deliver here, a straight-up arcade racer in the vein of early Ridge Racer games, where you had to tap the D-pad constantly to drift and make precise turns. Now using the virtual wheel, or even my Logitech G29, results in a much more sim-like experience, forcing you to be way more precise with your turning, feathering the acceleration, and using your brake frequently in order to stay on the track and avoid collisions. Meaning the only gamers with a real advantage in Exo Cars are the ones sitting back and using analog sticks. And sadly, regardless of which control scheme you pick, none of them feel all that satisfying. Hopefully all this can be fine-tuned in the future, making the game feel better across the board. Going through the campaign to unlock all the tracks and upgrade your Exo Car is actually pretty fun at first. Each race pits you against 3 ghost racers, meaning there's no collision with the other drivers in this mode. You can pass right through them. And the better you do, the more credit you get at the end of the race to level up your acceleration, surface grip, maximum speed, suspension, and brakes, which you'll learn to never use. It's a nice little progression system, but it shouldn't take more than a few hours to max out all of your specs. Fortunately, there's a ton of cosmetic options to purchase as well, allowing you to change out your frame, paint color, helmet, and gloves to make your Exo Car feel a little more personalized. Other than the campaign mode, there's also some more interesting bot races here, giving you some twisted metal style pickups on the track, like shields, mines, or rockets to fire at your opponents. There's actual collision here too, so making sure not to crash into other racers suddenly becomes part of the challenge. Fortunately or unfortunately, this mode's currently the most fun you can have in Exo Cars, and it feels like an afterthought. You don't get any credit for playing these races, you don't get any cash to spend, no XP, and there's no leaderboards here either. Plus it feels a little basic. There should be way more weapons available. Plus with only 4 vehicles on the track total, if you get way out in front or way behind, some of these big maps can feel empty for long stretches of time. There's a ton of smaller issues you should expect on day one as well. Sometimes the tracks just don't load, so you'd be forced to quit out of the game and try again. And this happened to me surprisingly frequently. Sometimes the game will automatically reset you on the track when you go flying off, and sometimes it won't. And sometimes it'll reset you even when you're still on the track, which if you're making good time can be extremely frustrating. There's also minor physics issues everywhere. I say minor, but man, some of these will send you flying for absolutely no reason at all. It speaks to a lack of polish that needs to be addressed, and these things need to be fixed before multiplayer gets added to ensure that everybody's on the same playing field. Listen, I think Exo Cars has a ton of potential. I love the map variety, the crisp graphics, the fast frame rate, and the devil-may-care approach to motion sickness that developers took here. But currently it feels like a bunch of good ideas stitched together, and none of them have been fully realized. The physics need work, the game-breaking bugs need to be addressed, and without multiplayer, there's just no reason to buy Exo Cars. Yet. It does sound like the developers are committed to making this an awesome racer though, so I'll be checking out every patch post-launch and keeping you updated.
Finish.